All right, we're learning the M'amar Tzavis B'nai Yisrael Aleph. So the M'amar says like this: Tzavis B'nai Yisrael. The verse says, "Command the Jewish people, M'amar Aleihim, and tell them." This is talking about the daily sacrifice, or the two daily sacrifices in the morning and the afternoon. And it says, "Karboni lachmi liishai, v'amarta zeha isha." So it says two times v'amarta. Tell to them twice. Lavin mahu v'amarta beis pamim. Why does it say tell them twice? We know that every mitzvah, commandment a person does, one has to do it in thought, speech, and action. So too when it comes to sacrifices, there's the action of the mitzvah, there's the thought behind the mitzvah, and there's the speech that's connected to the mitzvah. And we'll see what that means. The thought of a korban is the is the concept of prayer that's connected to the sacrifices. Like it says, avoidish believe, the service of the heart, which connected the karbonis, which is in place of the sacrifices, is prayers in place of the sacrifices. That's a feeling of how a person connects to Hashem, although it's through speech, but it's based on deep. A person has to have kavana, contemplation of what they're saying, and therefore it's considered a machshava, the thought of a person. V'dibur, what does it mean? The speech of a mitzvah in the case of karbonis. Hu talmud de karbonis. That's studying the laws of the karbonis. When a person studies the laws of the mitzvah, in this case, the mitzvah is the sacrifices, that's the speech of the mitzvah. Because it says, what's the connection between the speech of learning the mitzvah and the mitzvah itself, not just the information, but kol ha'isek v'tarei, anyone who preoccupies themselves with learning the laws of the oila sacrifice, which is a kind of sacrifice. So it's considered as if that person, he or she, has actually sacrificed the sacrifice. So we see that there's the concept of the Torah component of a mitzvah. And then there's the actual sacrifice itself, literally taking the sheep, to take a sheep 1 year old, and to sacrifice it on the altar. That's who am I. So that's the action of the mitzvah. So the Rebbe says, Nemar. So the part that says the second part of the verse that says this is the sacrifice is Nemar Amaisa Karbonos Atzmi. This is talking about the sacrifice itself. Well, Pasuk Rishon, in the first verse that says Savas B'nai Yisrael v'Mar Aleihim, and the first verse that says about to command the Jewish people and tell them about the Karboni lachmi liishai, the sacrifice that makes a person close, and the lechem, so to say, the substance of it. That's the first two components of the sacrifice, which is the thought connected to the sacrifice, the kavana, the connection mentally to the mitzvah, and the dibur, the speech of the mitzvah, the studying of the mitzvah, the Torah of the mitzvah. So the Rebbe explains this. Rabbi Inyan to understand this. What is the idea that it says that it's a pleasant, so to say, a smell of the carbon that awakens God's ruts and desire to the Jewish people. So this, it says about a carbon, when a person does a sacrifice, it creates a scent that awakens a tension that God has towards the Jewish people. So the Chazal teach us that nachas ruach lefanai, it gives me pleasure. Shamarti, that I give you a commandment, v'naser ritzayni, and you do what I asked. So when we do what Hashem wants, when we do God's mitzvahs, it gives God pleasure, like anyone who asks someone to do something, and we do it. But that's connected to all the mitzvahs, any mitzvah, the 630 mitzvahs that God gives a commandment, and when we do it, it gives him pleasure. Why does it specifically say the expression that when we perform the mitzvah of karbonos, of sacrifices, it gives a special reach nichayach, it gives a nachas, a pleasure to God, it's like a pleasurable smell to God. Every mitzvah has that component. But also one has to understand, why does one have to do the sacrifices in the temple? We know as long as the temple stands, we could do the sacrifices. Once, if there's no longer a temple, like we say in the Tefila, when the Beis Hamikdash has been destroyed, we can no longer do the sacrifices. So but all other mitzvahs are not that we have to, that the condition is, besides the connection, the mitzvahs that are connected to the temple, that have to be done specifically with the temple. And even the thought, which is the speech, which is the prayer of which is connected to the sacrifice, and the dibur and the studying of the halachas of the sacrifice, That even today we could do. So the only thing we can't do is the action of the sacrifice. We could do prayer, which is in place of today. We can't sacrifice, so we daven instead of the sacrifices, and that we do today. But Talmud Torah the Korbonot, and we learn the laws of the Korbonot. Although we right now can't sacrifice, or even if today the temple was standing, a lot of the laws that we're studying wouldn't apply to us if we're not Kohanim. Nevertheless, we learn the Torah, the laws of the sacrifice. That component of the dibur, the speech, is something that can be done till today. That's not dependent on the temple standing for us to learn the laws, or especially to pray in place of the sacrifices. To understand what's the idea means what we're trying to understand basically is what is the special uniqueness of a sacrifice, and why is it so dependent on action? Why do we have to actually take a sheep and bring it up to the altar and burn it on as a sacrifice, and specifically that gives pleasure to Hashem? To understand this, that as long as we're alive in this world, we have an opportunity, we could do something, right? We can do action in this world. It's brought down, but in tomorrow you can't do. Tomorrow means in the world to come. When we're no longer in this world, we can no longer do. It's our opportunity to do mitzvahs is only in this world, as long as we're alive. Specifically in this physical world. This is the world of action. And here in this world, while we're alive, in the world of action, we've been given the choice. We could choose to do good. It means our actions should be the right actions. Not only that, what's unique about this world is not only that we could do something, but let's say, God forbid, we've done a transgression. We've done wrong in our past. In this world, we could do tshuva. We could repent. We could return. And we go back to being a person that serves God. That's only in this world. In the world to come is one, there's no free choice in the world to come. We're already so connected to godliness that we wouldn't even consider. It's not even a possibility that we could consider to do anything else but serve Hashem. Like it's how a person leaves this world is how you're going to remain in the world to come. This is a unique concept, that there's no tshuva, there's no repentance, there's no action, and there's no bechira, no free choice in the world to come, only in the world of the living. Says, and that's notwithstanding that there's great revelations in the world to come. It's not like in the world after a person dies, you're sitting in a dark room. Whatever, a person has to go through hell for a little bit of time, whatever that experience means. But afterwards, the soul sits in baskins in the Garden of Eden. So there's great revelations. And there the all creations are totally nullified to God. Like it says, that the cosmos in heaven, they're constantly bowing towards God. Even the powers of the source of the powers of the other side, meaning of negative forces, they don't give off negativity, even though they're the potential for negativity, because they're totally nullified to God. They wouldn't do anything negative. They say God is the God of all gods. But the difference is it's like a froze. You're frozen. You're frozen in your personality. You're frozen in who you are. The way you come into the world to come is the way you are. You can't get rid of. It says you can't get rid of all the things that you preoccupied yourself in the world, this world, in the pleasures or in the negativity that stays with you. That's the whole idea brought down in the Kabbalistic teachings of the kafakela, which is like a slingshot, where a person is constantly put back into the reality of this world after they pass away, all the thoughts they had that weren't godly, and they can't shake them off. And in this world where we may not be so bothered about having thoughts that are not godly, or maybe even take pleasure in having those thoughts. But in the world to come, when we know the truth, and we're ashamed with ever having those thoughts, not only are we ashamed that we once had those thoughts, we can't get rid of those thoughts. So we get slingshot into those situations. A person is slingshotted into this world, and you feel like you're in this world. You have all those pleasures, but it's a fake experience. You're here, but you're not really here. You're having the experiences, the feelings, but you're not. But you're already passed away, and you can't shake it off. And you do things the way you think, and you speak, and you do what you used to do, but at the same time, you're not really alive. It's an interesting concept. So he explains why. So basically, the ability for a person to change themselves, essentially, that you are no longer that person, is only in this world when you're alive. Once you're dead, you are who you are. And then you have like kind of these, you're in one way, you have a spiritual understanding. So your soul no longer has the choice, no longer has the concealment, and it sees the light of God. But at the same time, it can't get rid of the luggage, the dirty clothing, so to say, that you've had while you're in this world. Because the thought, speech, and action, all those things that we do in our life, these are garments, like it says in the 4th chapter of Tanya, that the thought, it means we have the ability to think, we have the ability to speak, we have the ability to act, but the choices you make of what you're going to think about and what words you're going to use and what actions you're going to do, that's a free choice. And even if you have an instinct to think something, but if you push it out of your mind, so that then you haven't thought that thought. But if you indulge and you think a thought, or you speak something you shouldn't say, you say something nasty to someone, so that speech can't be taken away. And those are garments that stick with you in the world to come, unless you clean yourself before and in this world while you're alive. As we learn in Tanya, these are the garments of a person garments themselves in this world, of how you speak, think, and act. They become like a thick garment and dirty clothing in the world to come. They enclose the soul from top to bottom. It engulfs a person. And a person who's captured can't free themselves, and we can't free ourselves. So this is a scary concept, that we take how we pass away is how we go into the world to come. And then we, not just that we're walking around in dirty clothes in a palace, right? Like a person who comes to a grand dinner in dirty clothing. We're literally, then we get thrown into these experiences in the slingshot, where we also like almost try to relive, act, and speak these things because we can't get rid of them. And then we pull back to the holy reality, and we're ashamed of ourselves. You have to take off the dirty garments. Hasiru, he says, means, top page 4, Daika. You must take it off. And that's something that gets taken off in a process, but can't be done by choice. There's no avoided that could do it. So it says, why is it that in this world, we also do things that are wrong? We think the wrong things, we say the wrong things, we do the wrong things. But in this world, we could get rid of our garments easier. But in the world to come, we're stuck with them. Why is it that way? So he explains. In the world to come, the world to come is a very organized place. Everything has its place. Every level is separate from its colleague. Malachim, there's the place where there's angels. Uneshamas is a place where there's souls of the kedusha in a holy level. Each one is separate from themselves. There's no integration. You're either good or bad, and the bad and the good is very separate in the world to come. So there's no way for so if you have bad, it's there. It's like it doesn't blend. If it's bad, it's bad. Just like this is the place of angels, and this is the place of souls, this is the place of good, and this is the place of bad. And if you've placed bad there's no place for good, because it's either bad or good. It's very square in the world to come. But in this world, it's not a contradiction. A bad person could do good things, and a good person could do bad things. Because in this world we're alive. It's not square. There's balance. There's integration. There's we're not always not everything is extreme. I could have made bad choices in this moment. At the same time, it's not a contradiction of my ability to make good choices, holy choices. But in the world to come, it's not like that. It's very either or. So he says like this, and he says the reason like this. Go back. It says You could have good even in a place where there's bad. Even if a person did a sin in this world, mitzvah does not contradiction say, how could you do a good thing if you're a bad person or you've done bad things? Not only that, you could change yourself from being a person that does bad things to being a person that does good things. The point of the idea is this is the only place of creation where creation could change. It's not our mistakes don't live with us. We could change our mistakes. We could do tshuva. We could return. Why is it like that? Why is it that that only this world, seemingly a place that doesn't have so much light, doesn't have revelation, we have the ability to change in the world to come, or in the higher places outside of this space, everything is very exact and everything is very extreme and narrow. So he said like this: in the world to come, there they have the light of the infinite. So over there, because there's the revelation of godliness in the world to come. So therefore, the souls, when they're sitting there, they take pleasure. Shemis angim al Hashem, they take pleasure in God. Vasagasam, in their comprehension, vaskalasam, in their intellectual understanding of God. Ba'arin seif baruch hu, in the infinite light. And nimshlach lahem that comes bebechinas gili vasaga. So we're on page 4. Understanding, we're going to try to understand the idea of the Korbonot. Why does a korban have to come down to the world of action? And so to understand this, we're explaining the difference between the world to come, what is Hayom Asoisim, that today only is the time we could do things in this world, but any time after this world, meaning the world of action, of our time alive in this world, is where we could actually do things, and we could make things that we could change things. In the world to come, there's no changes. Everything, the way you die is the way you go into heaven. And although we go to hell in this process, but it's not that we could change ourselves through avoida, or a person could do bad, and there could be also the same person who does bad could also do good at the same time. It's not a contradiction. All that is only in this world. In the world to come, it's very exact. So we're holding on page 4 V'ha'inyan to explain the difference between the world to come and our world now. So he said like this: V'ha'inyan, the idea is like this: in the world to come, Sham nimshach gili orin seif baruch hu, there's the infinite light. So it's a place that if you're the way you come in, and if you're able, and if you've done the right things in this, I mean, again, there's it's not like there's you stay the whole time, because hell is not forever. Hell has a max of 12 months. But the process of getting out of what you were, of taking off the dirty clothes after you die, is much difficult. It's very difficult. Therefore, like for instance, Reb Meir had a teacher that went off the way, and they weren't sure what to do with him. He taught Torah in one way, so maybe he should not go to hell, but he can't go to heaven because he's not worthy of for the bad things he's done. Or he should go to hell, which is a very hard process. It's not like tshuva; it's a very hard process. If hell has to clean you for you to go into heaven, to be able to sit and take in the light. And Rameir said it's worth it for his teacher to go through hell, which is a very, very, like the Ramban says, that the worst description of Job's life doesn't come close to second in hell. So to go through a very, very difficult process of hell, it's worth it because of the benefits of the Garden of Eden. But it's a very difficult process to get there. What's difficult in the world to come is easy. In one moment, the person. So he says like this: in the world to come is a revelation of the infinite light. And therefore, the Garden of Eden is a place where the souls take pleasure in the light of Hashem. They take pleasure in godliness, in their comprehension and intellectual understanding of the Ein Sof, which is on a much clearer level in anything that we understand in this world, because we're very much more limited in this world. That godliness is revealed to us, to the souls in heaven, in a revealed, comprehensive way. And this revelation and comprehension, there's many different places. It's not a general place where everyone sits and understands and takes in godliness. It's very specific, of many different, he says, tens of thousands of different levels, and especially there's angels and there's souls, etc. Even though all the levels we see from the infinite light, and the Ein Sof is infinite. So why is there all these different places of each person, each soul or creation takes its level? It's like he says, an example of an neshama mispashes beguf, like a soul functions in the body. Because even though the soul itself outside the body, on page 4, even though we're talking about the difference right now between the world to come and the world in this world, and the world to come, it's very hard to change. It's a very hard process, almost impossible. It goes through, you can't make choices to change. It's a process that you get changed. Where in this world, everything is possible. We could do things when it's not contradictions. If we do good things, bad things, it's not a contradiction for us to be able to change ourselves in a second with tshuva. So he's explaining the difference. So he says it's like the soul that spreads in the body. So it's like this. Even though the soul on its own, outside of the body, you don't see that there has in it different abilities. It's just a live soul. It's like, a jellyfish, just you don't see anything. Nevertheless, but when the soul goes into the body, right? So then we start seeing functionality, that the power to see is only through the eyes, etc., etc. And hearing is through the ears and taste is through the mouth. And each limb of the body gets a part of the soul that the other part doesn't get. The power for the soul to see goes into the eyes. It's not, again, we've learned this many times. The body is just a mamish vessel. It's not like you put in a plug and then everything works. The eyes go light up and the ears start listening and the mouth starts tasting and the nose smells, etc., etc. And the hands could do mobile. It's not like everything, it's alive on its own. The soul comes in, the soul functions, the soul's ability to turn a knob or to screw in a screw or to knock a nail or to taste or to see or to hear or to smell. That's the soul functioning in the body. And that's the individual abilities of the soul, but it only does it in each part according to what it's supposed to do. It means it sees only through the eyes. But when the soul enters the body, each part of the body gets a different part of the soul. And again, the part of the soul that functions in the ability to open a knob is different than the part of the soul that could see something. And that's the way it is. So too, the idea, this is what he explains as M'amar the Rebbe, what it means that Hashem fills the world. And we're talking about, not even forget about this world. In the heavens, there's very specific places. There's, like he says, there's the Machne Gavriel, Michael, there's the camp of Michael that represents the Ravod of Chesed. You have of love. Dafka Machne Gavriel, and the camp of Gabriel is in fear. The Chol Tzaddik, and that's on the angels. And when it comes to the people, the righteous, the souls, the Chol Tzaddik Yeshlei Mother B'fnei Atzmai, each Tzaddik has its own place. The Rebbe said once, for bringing the Rebbe speaking, that if you, for instance, if you didn't learn Chassidus, in this world, you can't learn Chassidus in the world to come, no matter how much you want to. It's very exact. There's no, just like you can't see out of your ears. What you've done in this world, how you left this world, is what you could do in the world to come. So even if you go through tshuva, and even if you go through hell, and you're able to go into Garden of Eden, but even then you're limited to what defined you in this world. So if you didn't, it says that if you call tzaddik yeshlei mother b'fnei atzmai, each tzaddik has their own space, and if you didn't participate in other spaces in the world, in this world, you don't have an ability to you can't just go, now I'm going to go to a Shir Chassidus in heaven. It's too bad. If you didn't learn it in this world, you don't have an opportunity to learn it in the world to come, unfortunately. Just so we can't turn the head into the foot, or vice versa. You can't change things in the world to come. Everything's very exact. It's very narrow. And this is what we call M'amar the Rebbe. M'amar the Rebbe is, it fills, everything has to fit, everything fits. And just like you can't put in your foot into a glove, right? The glove is meant for a hand. So too, if you, the way you are, you fit. You're made to fit in the world to come. Each world is according to its levels. So the choices you make in this world, the garments you garment yourself, that you define yourself in this world, especially if they're not good choices, they're dirty clothing. You can't get rid of those garments to be able to just sit there and say, okay, now everything's okay. And at least not in a simple way. It doesn't go into the idea of hell, because clearly hell gives a person the ability to go into the world to come. But I think even the process of hell only allows it in a certain limited way. The point that we're trying to make over here is that that the only world, Hayom Lasaisim, the only world we could do something, the only place in the world where there's coexistence, true coexistence, is in the essence of God and in this world. Saif, the point is Saif Mais Machshavat Chila. The limitless of God is expressed in this world only. The idea that God is both Chesed and Gvura, the really scholarless coexistence, that's by the essence of God, is only in this world. And that's why in this world, it's not a contradiction for a person who did something wrong to simultaneously do something good. And you don't say, whoa, what's going on over here? You're a bad person. How does a bad person do a good thing? Or vice versa, you're a good person. How do you do a bad thing? And at the same time, also, is not the idea of tshuva. This tshuva is only in this world. The ability to do tshuva doesn't exist in the world to come. Masha'en Kain, he says, that's all in the world to come. But the way Hashem is in this world, who idei Torah mitzvahs. How do we bring down godliness? Not in the Orein Sof, the light that is the light of, say, the Hishtalshalos of creation, but this is through Torah mitzvahs we're reaching the essence of God. This is what a person does through our actions. We bring down through Torah. We bring down the essence of God. That's the l'mayla musay Hishtalshalos. That's above the chain of creation. The Maisa through the actions of mitzvahs, Dibur, the speech of the Torah of mitzvahs, Machshav, the thought, like we said, the Tefila, the thought of the mitzvah. And when we bring down through a mitzvah in this world, we're not tapping into the essential energy that was connected to the world. We're tapping into the level of godliness and bringing down from a level of godliness that's beyond the world, that's not limited to the world. It means the limitations that the world has is a limitations that's self-made by God. God limited how he's going to be God, malchus malchus kol olamim, how God is king over the world. When we do Torah mitzvahs, we're tapping into the energy that's beyond God being a king, beyond God being limited, so to say. We're bringing from the Soviv energy. Sha'idei kima Torah mitzvahs, through when a person does Torah mitzvahs. And then we have the infinite light himself, not a manifestation. The less machshavet tfisbei, that no thought, comprehensive thought. It's not the hasaga. What we are understanding in Garden of Eden is a limited, is very bright, very spiritual, very holy, but very limited. But grasping the essence, that's through Torah mitzvahs in this world. And then you bring down the infinite, which is part of the kavanah of why there was creation, and therefore it brings down the infinite, the soviv, onto your soul, and that's what he's going to go into. That's why we have to have ma'aseh mitzvahs. That's why that's why he's going to answer why it has to be an actual carbon. You can't just learn about the carbon, because the question we started off in the Maimer is that the carbon is so limited. It has to be only in the base of Mikdash, only through the Kohen, and all. There's all these limitations in doing the ma'aseh, the action of a carbon. Whereas the study of the Torah of a carbon, for instance, even if you're Kohen, even if the base of Mikdash is standing, the Tamid sacrifice is only in the morning, and the Tamid sacrifice in the afternoon is only in the afternoon. And after a certain point, there's nothing going on. You can't sit at night and do a carbon. Where Torah, you could wake up at 2:00 in the morning and learn the laws of Korbonot, and you're doing a carbon. You're connected to the study of a carbon. So seemingly the Torah is the studying of the carbon, and as if you did the carbon, it's much better than doing the carbon itself. And the difference is that in order to bring the actual soviv on your soul, the outside the space is through Torah, but also through the action of actually actualizing the mitzvah. And that you may not understand it, and you may not even appreciate what happens to us when we do a mitzvah. The notwithstanding of all that whatever it is, again, it's beyond our understanding, is much greater than whatever we understand in the world to come. So Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to go into Eretz Yisrael. It says, why? The Gemara says, you think Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to eat the fruit of Eretz Yisrael? He wanted to do the mitzvahs, because these are mitzvahs you could only do while you're alive. It means you could have studied the mitzvahs. Moshe taught the mitzvahs of the land, but he wanted to experience actually doing the mitzvahs of the land. Skip the parentheses, and he says on top of page 4 on the left-hand side, therefore the revelations of Gan Eden is rak ziv bilvad miterasiv avidase. That's only a ray of the avodah, the service that you've done, that you've accomplished in the world to come. In this world, you're kind of given a little bit of appreciation of the ray of the mitzvahs you've done. That again, the schar mitzvah, the schar of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. That's the idea that through a mitzvah you connect to God in a way that you never connected before. The word mitzvah means to connect. The reward of the mitzvah is to be connected. That means if you can look at a mitzvah and say, I did what God wants. So what's in it for me? What's in it for you is that you did what God wants. Because by doing what God wants connects you to God. And again, maybe not in a way you understand, but eventually when the time of the resurrection of the dead, where the physical and the spiritual are going to meet in a revealed way, and then it's going to be the real understanding of what a mitzvah is. The point of a mitzvah is that we were put in the Garden of Eden to serve and to watch. We what you're it's like a retirement plan. Yes, that while we're waiting for the Mashiach is while you're in the Garden of Eden, it's what you brought down that pleasure. You get a little bit of understanding of the pleasure. You understand. You get that through the Garden of Eden gives us a bit of an experience of what we've done. He says. But he says that the light that we bring down when we actually do a mitzvah doesn't make a difference if a person is large or small. And it doesn't. And God is light and dark is the same. Therefore, when the angels ask, "Where is the essence of God?" Not the ray of God, where we see of the effect of the mitzvah a little bit in the Garden of Eden. But you want to know where you're bringing down the essence of God, the essential, the experience itself. So the angels ask, where's that experience? Not a little bit of a taste of what happened in the experience. It's in the world. And then even although we went so low, where we can make different choices, we could also choose the wrong thing. So therefore we go very low, and seemingly we're so low in this world, much lower than we are in the world before we came down to this world, or after we've been in this world. Nevertheless, not the end, this world, the place where we, through our mitzvahs, we're actually connected to Soviv. We're actually, it's not just an appreciation of what we've done, but we're actually the moment of a lot. I mean, it's not the difference we're trying to say over here, Yom HaSosam. What is the idea of a Yom HaSosam? It's not just that today we do, is that we're able to do things that in the greater picture of getting things done, things can get done in this world. It's not just about getting things done. It's about doing it. It's a difference. I mean, getting things done means that something has to happen. And in order for it to happen, it happens in this world. But then there's not such a big difference between the world to come and this world. The difference is that in this world you could do it, in the world to come you can't do it. But it's not just about that getting it done. It's about doing it, and the doing it, the connection to the essence of God, to the Sof Kalam, that's happening only in this world. When you do a mitzvah, you're bringing down the purpose of creation. You're connecting the end, which we're in this world, to the Tefila, to the beginning of why there's the world. Why there's the world is that a person in this limitation should do a mitzvah. And that's only happening when you're doing a mitzvah here. And therefore, that's why you could do tshuva. And that's why it's about the action. That's why it's about not just the concept of a mitzvah, but the performance of the mitzvah. So he continues. The idea is like this. This that we said before, that just like this, you can't turn the functionality of the soul's ability to be a foot into a head or vice versa, means you can't change functions. Everything has its place, and that's an example of the way God fills the world. In the world to come, which is a clear world, that's already been defined. Everything's in its place, meaning to say that the functionalities of the head are in the head. Regel, and the functionalities of walking, whatever the foot does, jumping or running is all in the feet. Or dancing, is different, can't change because it's all defined. In this world, before things have been changed. Here he gives an example. The world to come is the after fact. This is the way it is. So you're a person that's very. Sometimes you feel like that while we're alive too, right? We feel like it's too late. We can't change. We've come. We are who we've become, and that's it. It's too late. I'm this kind of person, and that's just the way it is. So he says, no, that's only in the world to come. You're this kind of person. In this world, you're like Play-Doh. You form something. It's soft. It hasn't hardened yet. So if you don't like it, if it's not working, you remush it up and make something else. And that's what he says. In this world, it's already mevur, it's already set. Is who oilam hamay is akani yefshel shtanis. You can't. It's too late. It's already been set. Mashenkim elam is in this world. Shekaydim abir. It's before it's been defined. For oilam hamaysev abir. It's the world that things are still happening. We're still deciding how it's going to be. Hazek moy havlad. It's like a child. Before the child in the first 40 days after conception, there's nothing yet. There's no body yet. There's no form yet. So much so that in those 40 days, halachically, you could pray for the change of the sex of the child. How could you change the sex of the child? It should be female, male, male, female. Is because there's nothing defined yet. Not only that, even the different parts of the body haven't been separated yet. Everything's still in the seed, the foot, the hand, all it's all within in the beginning formation. Nothing has been set yet. And therefore it could change. There's many things that could change in the initial stages of conception. Like he says, he brings down halacha, that that's brought down halacha, the first 40 days of a woman's pregnancy, a person could still pray if they want a female or a male. Why? It's already, once this conception, it's either going to be a male child or a female child. But it's not, that hasn't been set yet. That's the first 40 days. After that, after things harden, same thing as an example. In this world, we haven't been set yet. We could do tshuva, we could change who we are. Once we go to the world to come, we are who we are, and that can't be changed. And that's what he says when we go a little further. That's why tshuva is so important in this world. That's why the emphasis is not just that a person can change. The ability to change, it's not the same thing. The fact that a person has an ability to do tshuva, to return, to not be set in their ways, that's the beauty of this world. That's what we say, tshuva ma'asim tovim. It's good, tshuva ma'asim tovim, this world, and then the world to come. You can't do that in the world to come.
But maybe the soul that went into the body was one gender, and the physical part changed later. So that's how you end up with like a transgender person.
The transgender issue is a difficult issue because spiritually it could be something similar to what you're saying. I'll tell you a story. There's not in the way it's not played out the way it's being played out today, but there was a big chassid of the Alter Rebbe known as a Pinchas rises, which is what Mishrabi, the Maimer we're learning today is most of the Maimerim we have today are from his. He was the Rebbe's choser. It means the Rebbe said the Maimer. He's the one who wrote it down. He was a very big chassid, never had any children, and the story goes that he went into the Alter Rebbe once and asked for blessing for children. The Alter Rebbe said, "You're a female soul, and therefore you can't father a child." But it's not in the way it's being played out today in a different kind of way. But what you're saying has some sort of mocker. Okay, base. He says, "This is the power of tshuva." Is to return the power, the energy that came down because it went so low. It hasn't yet been formed, and therefore the idea is to bring it back in a complete, in a higher way, to its source. The idea that the soul itself came down to this world, that's a continuation of Seder Shtalshlus, of the creation, of the chain of creation, the way God fills the world. That from God's kingship, and part of the intention of creation was that God should be king. Part of the Hashem should be king. It wasn't just to be king in the higher worlds. There was no drive, so to say, for God to create the world for angels. The drive was souls. So therefore, the way God is king is a king over subjects. That's the idea is that, like it says, a king over subjects, not over children. You can't be. I mean, a person that could maybe think they're the king in their own home, but you're a father. You're not or a mother. You're not a king in the house. God's the king over all creations. And his kingdom, he rules. The word Moshel is a shalit, is a ruler through his kingship. And there being a king creates the concept of king, and having subjects, and having the concept of separating from the essence of God is from the midah of Malchus, and therefore the worlds continue to evolve, so to say, from higher, from the world of Atzilus Brius Yitzira Asiya. And the further goes down, there's less revelation. So the way it is in the world, the way it is in before avoda, so to say, is that we're in a very low place. And the idea is and what's the idea? Where do we get revelation? Is where a person nullifies themselves to Hashem, because you can't have that. God only reveals. Godliness is only revealed in a place of bittul, self-nullification. And because of the world of Atzilus, so in the world of Atzilus, they're so nullified to God. There's a major revelation. In the world of Bria separation, and therefore, because the bittul, the self-nullification in the world of creation is not on the same level as Atzilus, therefore the revelation is limited. And in our world, we're mamish struggling with trying to give any kind of bittul. Therefore, we're mamish limited in our revelation. But we need kriya, and where do we get? How do we even do a bittul in the world of Asiya? It's just maidim. We acknowledge maidim is haida is a very low level of acknowledgement, saying I don't know why, but kachase. This is the way it is. I acknowledge maidani. That if a person doesn't bow by Moedim, he can't even acknowledge God. It says your spine turns into a snake. The klip of a sitracha means you're lost, so to say, to the chas v'shalom, to the other side. And it says you won't resurrect in the time to come. It says if a person can't even bow moedim and say I may not understand God. What's the idea of haida? Haida is levar megufay. It's not because doesn't come from seichel, doesn't come from I understand godliness. It's not atzilus, chachma atzilus. Haida is this is the way it is. I acknowledge there's a God. But if you can't even acknowledge there's a God, so you're not going to be part of the story of the resurrection of the dead. That's what it's brought down.
One thing I just wanted to say though regarding your comment, what was the name of the person who was the Rebbe's who went to the Rebbe who worked for him?
Pinchas of Rises. His name is Rises. He was named after his mother-in-law, meaning his mother-in-law was a famous woman. So he was Riser from the word Razel Misrabi. He was Razel's Pinchas, so they called him Pinchas Rises.
Anyway, we had Yiska Smith here in our community, and Yiska was a Chabad rabbi in Yerushalayim. He was married at the time to a woman, and they had 6 children. And then later on, he had to felt that his life depended on transitioning to a woman. So that's Yiska today. And so what the Rebbe said about this Pinchas of Rizel wasn't true for Yiska. And as far as your comment about then versus today, I don't know. It's a whole big question.
Yeah, I prefer not to get into that topic, but my point is that what I'm saying is first of all, each individual has their situation. So what Pinchas of Reiz's situation was, he says that the blessing
it might have been different, than
obviously it's obviously different. And my point that I was saying is that possibly there could be what is before Mashiach comes, a lot of things that may look it's all the way from the beginning. The Rambam quotes this already. A lot of things that come towards time Mashiach may look it's coming from a bad place, but it's really in the essential. It comes from it hasn't yet been revealed in its positive way. Put it that way. So there's this could be part of this idea. All right. He says Vihine in this world, Raglea Yordis Mavis. It says it goes all the way down. So let's say that like the feet goes all the way down to Mavis to death. Death. It goes down, it gets more and more concealed. All the way to give life to the other side, to Klipa. That's the permissible, and even beyond the permissible, I mean the forbidden. The lower the life goes down and gets more concealed. And this is a concept to understand, and I've said this many times. Everything has to have a source from God. And the ugliness and darkness of spirituality doesn't exist on its own. It has to have a source of life from God. So that's the idea of ragla yardis mavis. The feet go all the way down to death to give to negative forces. But nevertheless, when a person does tshuva, so what is the idea? The idea is that if a person, I want to finish with this because he gets into, and we'll go a little further into this idea of tshuva. A person that gets trapped into the mindset of a malach olam, that says the way things are is the way they are, and I can't do anything about it. That's a person says, and as we get further away from the light, so to say, and there's this, even the darkness get siphons off the godliness to exist, and a person could feel that that's it. I'm further away, further away. There's, I mean, and if you look at it from the perspective of the world, from the perspective of the king, from a malach olam, you are further away. But because a person in this person by essence essentially has a connection, can connect to this soviv kolam through avod of Torah mitzvahs, specifically through tshuva. So therefore, when a person, the fact that a person has the ability to do tshuva, that overrides the system. That's not that you are revealing within the difficulty. It's because you're not limited to that, what you think you're limited to. Because a yid is connected to self of kalam. And therefore, when a person does tshuva, when a person does Torah mitzvahs, you're connected to the source of light that's higher than any limitations. And therefore you can change and you can return. Is Yashav Achayis L'Makar, therefore you return the light, the life force that went down into negativity, you could turn it back and bring it back into a positive place. But that as far as this, as deep as the soif, as the end is, and it could be a dark place, you could bring it back to the beginning, because we're not limited. It's like a circle. It all goes back. The hainu is hapchel, we could transform chashaychel and higher, darkness to light. But in order to get that we transform ourselves, first we have to restrain ourselves. The thing, the love that we have towards foreign things, the things that we actually place our love and our passions into bad things, into negative things, should be transformed. We should no longer be taken to the other side. It says the word zoina, that you've prostituted yourself out to. What does it mean, zoina? A person who lets their hearts go to foreign things. It's not only negative things. Even if it's things that you need, let's say eating food, you have to eat. It shouldn't be with the passion. Well, if I have to eat anyways, why don't I indulge and really enjoy the food? No one's saying you shouldn't enjoy it, but it shouldn't be. You have to have a spiritual underline here. If you can't have a spiritual underline, you should have, what's the idea of kafai? You have to have it as if this yid has to eat. But everyone has to eat. But does it have to be that you're so indulged in the food if it's not Shabbos? But the yearning and the thirst that a person has should only be towards Hashem. And a person should be that to your man you have a desire, which is referring to Kadosh Baruch Hu. What does it mean, Isha, a female? The fire towards God. Because she was taken from Eish Yud, from the Yud that's higher than the Hey, the Chachma that's higher than the Bina. And why could a person do that focus and change themselves and do the tshuva? Is because we reveal the koyach of soivev, of the encompassing light that's beyond the way things are. And this is what it says: that's why no matter, a person may say, "Wow, the world to come is such a great place." Yeah, it's a beautiful place. It's the luxury of luxury spirituality, but that it's set. There's no upgrades in the world to come. There's no changing rooms. I don't like this room. It's not for me. I want to go to the next room. Well, that's the room you've been assigned to, and that's the room you're going to stay in. And therefore, that's the world to come. But it's better to have one moment of repentance and good deeds in this world than all the world to come. Because in the world to come, it's only revealing the higher levels of this world, of the worlds, of the way Hashem fills the world. It's the way God's king. So yes, the world of Atzilus is much more revelation. God is one king, Melech, and it's all about the shame of Hashem, the name. These are all manifestations. The God is the Yachid, the way God is alone. But the way God gives life to the world, that's only the way God is king. And the fact that we praise, everything that we praise, the things that we officially understand of godliness is Rak Shmai Gadol. It's only a name, right? Wow, this person's such a tremendous doctor, but the person himself. When we do repentance and good deeds, that's tapping into the energy that's beyond the name, beyond the king. Is a Shuv Yisrael, and therefore it says, the prophet says, Hosea says, return Israel, let Havaya be your God. Don't be locked into Elokim, which is limitations. You should return so much. That should be your reality, the level of Soviv, the level that's beyond the limitations of creation. We're just going to finish here. We have to say Hashem Lekecha. That's what it says. We should love Hashem our God. That we say Hashem Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God is one. By saying Hashem is one, it creates within us an emotion of love. We want to get connected to the Bechinas Soviv Kalam, beyond the world. That should be our reality. That should be revealed in our life. And we take, means we look at our world and we look separate. What's Yichud Tata? Yichud Tata means a lower level of unification is we feel separate, but we're connecting to the idea that we're not separate. That's Yichud Ilah. Yichud Ilah is revealed the reality. The reality is that Hashem Echad is taka true. That it's Yachid. The idea is to reveal the Yachid in Echad. Yes, I may live here, I may have needs, and I may have desires, and all that, but I want to reveal the Yachid in Echad, the level of the higher level of unification in my reality in this world, and that's the connection of Soviv in this world. That can only happen here through Tshuva Maisim Tovim. Okay, he explains further and how this comes out to be in Korbonot. We're going to stop here. La'ila Tov, everyone. Thank you for joining.